Hello and welcome to the Alchemist Inkwell.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people.
I'm Emily, and if you're like, hey, didn't I see you wear that outfit like a podcast or two ago? The answer is yes, you did,
Yeah.
because this is the same recording day, but we're like breaking it up. So like you should have seen a podcast where we were dressed in different clothes, but also repetitive clothes from the podcast before that podcast's
Yeah.
podcast. So
Alternating outfit podcast episodes. If you're watching us on the YouTube, the tube of you,
yeah.
I'm KristaLyn.
Also, we're coming to you from the past then. We're actually recording this on July 22nd. If you're listening to this, you're like, it's August. Yeah, we know.
Mhm.
Um, we
We
will
planned
actually
for this.
just be getting back from Japan when this episode airs, which means that our next episode will be us talking about Japan, and we'll be so excited about
Mhm.
that. But we have some big news on this podcast
We
as
do.
well. We've been queuing it up for a little bit of time now.
Mhm.
Yeah, plus we're going into dun, 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 Mercury
You
retrograde.
say it
Did
like
I
it's an
make it
exciting
exciting
thing, but
enough?
actually, it's not bad. It's not bad. It could be worse.
It could be worse. Yeah. How can I make this exciting? Spirit fingers are the
Ah,
answer. So
always.
we're going to talk about Mercury retrograde, and then it's a bookend too, which the bookend is technically a little bit late, but I think you guys will be okay with it. Also, for us, it's a little bit early, so I really don't have a ton of books because I know I'm going to listen to most of them or read most of them on the plane rides,
Right.
which I have yet to take as of this moment of recording.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm I have like a couple books to talk about from the previous month. And then
Mhm.
I'm getting ready to start my season of classes here. So been doing a little bit about that too.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So, let's start off with our big announcement. That sounds fun. Doesn't that sound fun?
Yes.
Yeah. If you've been watching us on social media the last couple days, we say from the past, but no, not with knowledge of the future. We've been playing a psychic guessing game to have you guys guess where the heck we're traveling next.
And now you don't have to anymore because you're listening to the podcast. And honestly, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, you already know, and you've already been able to register to go with us for a couple weeks now,
Yeah.
because the podcast preview day or early drop goes to the patrons only, and the Patreons have had the link.
Access.
But
Hmm.
are you ready to announce it, Em?
Dun, dun, dun. We are going to Iceland.
Iceland! Oh, I hope that happened at the same time.
That would be cool. Yeah, we are going to Iceland, and honestly, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Iceland is one of those places that is like has inherent magic to it. Like just when
Yeah.
you think about the energy of the land itself, you're like, oh, magic floats on the air here. Like you can eat
Mhm.
magic. Like it's one of those there's New Zealand's another one. Like there's just a couple places in the world where it's like, no, there's like magic going on right now.
Sneaking through the cracks. Yeah.
Like there's stuff going on, and I'm so excited to channel into that more. And it's gonna be the coolest adventure, you guys. We're doing the most magical things on this trip, and it's really cool because Trova, we scheduled this, we set this all up, and then Sydney was like, "Hey, this person's currently going on this trip too. Like, if you want to look at their stories, they're on it right now." And so I was watching their stories, and just mind blown of the
Hmm.
cool stuff that they were doing because we're going to get to do the same thing. I was like, oh my God, like it's so magical. To start it off, because we plan things, our first day will be the summer solstice.
Hmm.
And you might be like, but that means there's going to be like 20 hours of sunlight. Yeah, it does. They have blackout curtains, but also like how freaking cool is
Hmm.
that? Like
Yeah.
if you want to sleep, you'll be able to sleep. If you don't want to sleep though, you'll get to experience 20 hours of daylight, potentially with the northern lights in the bit of darkness that we have.
Mhm.
Like that is amazingly cool.
Yeah, this is where nature like reaches down to meet you, and we get to be there. And I'm
Yeah.
just so ready. I'm so ready.
Right? Yeah, have you seen the movie Brother Bear? It feels like that. Like it feels
Yes.
like the way that they like get to like interact with like the
Everybody on
northern
the
lights and like
highway.
yeah, that's one of my all-time favorite Disney movies ever. I have really obscure favorite Disney movies: The
I
Hunchback
mean,
of Notre
you have good
Dame,
taste.
Brother Bear, and then Frozen 2. Oh, and then The Sword and the Stone because I have a thing with Arthurians that are sure.
Same.
Um, yeah. So, there's that. But anyway, it feels like that. It feels like that level of magical. And honestly, I also I love Iceland for a million of different reasons, but also the presence of elves on Iceland. Elves are like a nearly universal belief still in Iceland, like
Mhm.
very similar to where we think of like Ireland and the Fae, but even like more so.
Mhm.
Like there is like elf houses all over the place that people bring offerings to regularly. And I'm so excited to chat with them and to see what comes up and what magic we connect with there. And also, if you're someone who's always been drawn to the Norse gods or the Nordic deities, this is a wonderful trip to go on because that's the gods of they're the same. Like whether in Norway or we're in Iceland, it's the Vikings,
Our
it's the same deities, it's the same.
our
Mhm.
first hotel is literally named after Leif Erikson. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Tis the Leif Erikson Hotel.
Yes.
Um, Happy Leif Erikson Day. My mom quotes that SpongeBob episode, which I think is great. But sometimes she'll just say like Nisha Horgan, which is not a real word. It's just SpongeBob. Just SpongeBobbing it up. But yeah, our first hotel is Leif Erikson. It's gonna be so cool. So if you're like, oh, I know, like you work with Nordic deities a lot, you have Norse gods in your pantheon of deities that you work with, like this is a perfect trip for you because that's who we're going to be connecting with like very significantly throughout this entire journey. And it's going to be a bit warmer. We are going in summertime on purpose, but we're going
Mhm.
to do a bunch of stuff, especially associated with like nature and water and like releasing and healing in that way. And like activating your own connection to nature and magic of nature, including like soaking in Secret Lagoon. And I think there's 3 or 4 different waterfalls we get to go
There's so
touch.
many waterfalls. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Lots
We're
of
gonna,
volcanic stuff. No
yeah,
actual volcanoes and lava. I
no,
did check.
but going near volcano stuff. We're
Mhm.
doing volcano stuff there. We're also taking a
Geysers.
boat to a glacier.
Hmm.
We're gonna get to go glacier looking before the glaciers are gone. Sorry to be morbid, but still, like that's something valid to know.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go look at those and feel out the energy of those. Like it's gonna be amazing. Plus Black Sands Beach. Like it's a pretty quick trip because Iceland and Norway and Scandinavian countries in general tend to be a little bit more on the pricey side. So to keep costs relatively low, it's like a 6-day trip.
Mhm.
About a week. And again, payment plans are available and you can check all of that out. We will have, if the link's not below, it will be in either of our link trees. So
Yeah.
just know that. And it officially launches for sale tomorrow when you're listening to this. So the 9th of
The
August.
ninth. Yep.
Uh-huh. But it's going to be the coolest adventure. The energy around it is just electric. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Mhm.
I can't
Yeah.
even express it fully.
I feel like it's waiting for us and everybody who's traveling with us. It
Mm-hmm.
just feels like it's already looking at us. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
so there.
It does though, right? Like it's very much like, oh yeah, you're coming. It's
Mm-hmm.
funny. I've talked about this in the podcast before, but I'm extremely, extremely Norwegian. I have an Anderson on 3 sides of my family. I'm not even kidding. So my mom's grandmother is Anderson. My and then my dad's mom was Anderson with an EN, and my dad's dad was Anderson with an ON. That is 3 Andersons. There is much Norwegian happening. And yet the Norwegian pantheon doesn't really give a shit about me at all.
Yeah.
They don't like the Norse gods really couldn't care less. And I've tried. It is not for lack of trying. Like I have reached out, I have tried to connect with them. They don't fucking care, which is
Mm.
fine. They're not for me, with the exception of one, Loki brought me my husband, and two, Ratatasker, the world tree squirrel. He talks to me and he hangs out with me, and I'm really excited to connect with that and see
Mhm.
that there. But also the elf energy. That's weird because I've never really felt drawn to Norway, but I have felt drawn to Iceland. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like on a
Same.
like an ancestral level, even though I know where my ancestor came from in Norway, like the
Yeah.
exact town. Still, I'm like, oh no, it's definitely a more Norway thing for me,
Mhm.
or more Iceland thing
Iceland.
for me instead of
Mhm.
Norway.
Yeah.
Feels more pull. So it'll be very interesting. I'm really excited. Also, my all-time favorite movie, which you should watch. This is
Mhm.
gonna be the stupidest fucking recommendation. I'm just gonna put this out there. It is my all-time favorite movie. I've watched it hundreds of times, and you're gonna be like, "The fuck, Emily?" But I promise, like, listen, hear me out, okay? The reason it's my all-time favorite movie is because it is how magic actually works.
Mhm.
The way that the movie go plays out is the way that magic actually works on our plane, and it's literally one of the best ways of representations of it I've ever seen in any media, for how it actually, like how you can actually work with magic and have magic work for you, and like how real it actually is and what it feels like to have it work. And it shows the journey of having it working in a way that's like so real. Like it's just really real. Like it's not like, hey, poof, magic now happens. It's more like when you go through all these things and then when you look back at it, you're like, oh, that was that, and that was that, and that was that. Oh my God, they were intervening the whole time. Like magic was still happening the whole time. So anyway, it's on Netflix exclusively. It's the Eurovision Song Contest, the story of Fire Saga. It is a Will Ferrell film. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. The music is impeccable. If you have seen it, you should still watch it. It's incredible. It's funny, but it's mostly heartwarming, and it just does magic so well, and I love it. But they are from Iceland in the movie, so you get to see a lot of Iceland there. And so if you want to like get vibes and see if this feels aligned, you should watch that movie and see if you want to go there. And you should come with us because we're gonna go there.
Yeah, we're going to be there and you can be there too. And it'll be so much more fun with everybody in the same place because these trips are amazing every time. Just, yeah, it's going to be good. Sorry.
It's gonna be so special. Yeah, we're so excited. This has been one of those locations. We actually wanted to do Iceland a while ago. We threw it out, I think, in our
Yeah.
first meeting. And
Yeah.
we were like, no, we'll kind of build up to that because that is one of those trips where we wanted to make sure that we were good at trips before we took there. And we are. We feel good at trips, so we can take it. Just so exciting. Um, yeah, so there's that. That'll launch tomorrow. All the deets, the price breakdown, the full itinerary, whatever. I'm forgetting. Will be located on our TrovaTrip. You can literally just search TrovaTrip Iceland, Emily and KristaLyn,
Yep.
and it'll pop up. But you can also just look on any of our link trees. It'll be there. But yeah, that's our big announcement. Did you guess it? Tell us if you guessed it.
Yeah. I'm like, how would they? Oh, well, that's right. We've been doing Future Us has been doing the work to set you all up for having guessed this.
Yeah.
That felt like math.
Sounds like oh, time is pretend, guys. It's just okay. Get this. I was talking to my kids, and one of them mentioned the other time. I was like, listen, time is pretend. We fly out to Japan at 5 p.m. from San Francisco on the 24th. We arrive at, or, yeah, on the 24th. Yeah. And then we arrive at 8 p.m. on the 25th in Japan. But we only are in the air for 10 hours. So we travel more than this amount of hours, but we're only in the air for 10. And we lose literally a whole day off the calendar. The calendar is just, that day is gone.
On the way back, I land an hour before I leave.
Yeah. See, that's what I mean.
I love that.
Right? On the
Yeah.
way back, it looks like I fly for 3 hours. I fly for 9, but it looks like I fly for 3.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Sure.
what? All right, then. Fantastic.
If that doesn't
So
prove we made that up, I don't know what does.
yeah, time is imaginary. It's all pretend. So yeah, embrace it. Uh, and speaking of pretend, Mercury retrograde.
Oh,
I
that is, you'll wish it was pretend. I'm
know.
kidding. It's not that bad.
Oh, this one feels actually kind of mild, weirdly
It,
enough.
it, it's not so bad. And I'll tell you why. So Mercury begins retrograde on August 5th, and it begins retrograde both domicile exalted, well, all of domicile exalted and in their own terms of Virgo. It's like the happiest part of Virgo Mercury could be in. That's where it stations retrograde. And immediately after stationing retrograde, it meets up with Venus, who's in fall in Virgo and a little bit sad to be there, but hey, at least she has friends until Mercury goes into Leo during the retrograde. So Mercury will move backwards into Leo, getting to Leo on August 14th before stationing direct in Leo on August 28th. And then we get a second time of Mercury in Virgo because of this by September 9th. So that is the timeline of Mercury retrograde. And it's truly like the past few weeks, Mercury has been covering all of the degrees it's going to cover during that retrograde. And yeah, they've been chaotic on a very global scale. But if you are someone with, I'm going to say either fixed or mutable axis. So this is your Leo rising, Taurus rising, Aquarius rising, Scorpio rising people, as well as your Virgo, Gemini, Sagittarius, and Pisces rising people. If you have something in the very beginning of your those last four I just said, which is the mutable signs, or at the end of the fixed signs, the first four signs I just said, then you might notice that there's a transit from Mercury retrograde happening where you're revisiting something and it's noticeable in your life. That does not mean it's bad. It just means it's getting fine-tuned. It's getting some more details, especially with Mercury in that Virgo. Mercury's like,
Mhm.
hey, this could be more efficient. Let's make sure
Yeah.
we're actually ready to go before we actually take off.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. When I look at it, I'm like, oh, ego death. It
That would be
feels
the
like,
Leo section.
yeah, it feels honestly like I think a lot of people are going to have kind of their first, like a lot of younger souls, especially, are having kind of some first ego death ever, like fully examining behavior. Like, if you're in the dating scene, I wouldn't be surprised if there was an uptick. If you're dating men,
Mhm.
men specific. I know I'm not trying to just hate on men for this, but like I think it's specifically for this piece that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
An uptick of mansplaining empathy to you will occur during this time because it will be like a realization of what empathy is. So,
A revelation for some.
and so I think it that's what I see with it pretty significantly is that energy that sits with it. It's weird. Something like a cord on my desk was popped out. Anyway, um, and so I noticed when I looked at the energy, I was like, ooh, that's like internal communication stuff of like, hey, we're gonna show you things and you have to process those. Feels like a little bit of that going on with this Mercury retrograde. Also, I think it's gonna be one of those things, when you're running and all of a sudden you feel like you're running too fast and your like feet are kind of getting away from you a little bit and you like have to stagger and catch yourself a little bit. You're like, whoa, okay, all right, now I can try running again. It feels a little bit like that too. Not like you're gonna fully fall and you're still moving forward, but you might have to like slow the pace on the treadmill just slightly
Mhm.
in a minute and be like, oh, okay. Whew, that was all right then. Okay, now we'll keep going. Like it's very like a you tripped, but you didn't fall type of energy comes from this Mercury retrograde too.
For that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
I
familiar.
also, for some reason, as far as like technology stuff, of course, there's gonna be the same annoying technology stuff that there always is. It's just Mercury retrograde. It'll be fine. But as far as like on a like larger scale, and I'm sure there's some sort of thing with this, Krista, I think there's going to be some sort of like water based issue technologically. I don't know if it's like a storm washes out a power grid type of that, or if it's like a water distribution problem, like pump house something, like a water pump system thing. It
Mhm.
feels like there's just some sort of water technology situation happening with this Mercury retrograde.
Okay.
Don't know what that's about. I wouldn't worry about it on a personal level too much. It doesn't feel like everyone's water technology. Like I wouldn't say like it has to be your plumbing, but it's just one of those things when I'm like looking at it, I'm like, it feels pretty grand. Like it feels like societally a little bit more, or like affects a lot of people together. And it's something like that.
If so, during Mercury retrograde, we have some pretty radical transits
Okay.
happening. Mercury goes retrograde on the 5th and takes until the 28th to go direct again. In that time, and I'm just going to give you an overview here, we will cover them as they happen as well. So don't worry. But on the 14th, we do have Mars Jupiter on the day that Mercury goes back into Leo. Mars and Jupiter, they're going to conjoin in Gemini. So that's technology and maybe communication situations. However, Jupiter does rule Pisces, where Mars will be squaring Saturn on the 16th. That's the one that I'm wondering, since Saturn is in Pisces and Mars will
Mm-hmm.
be squaring from Gemini, if there is a water technology um, fault that could
Yeah.
happen. Um, and then, of course, the same day that Mercury has its inferior cazimi or conjoins with the sun to mark the halfway point of the
Mm-hmm.
retrograde, they will both be square Uranus. Then the sun will perfect its square with Uranus on the 19th, which is also the full moon in Aquarius. And it's going to be the Saturn Jupiter square. Now, again, I think we're going to end up doing a whole podcast episode on
Yeah, we
that
will.
because there are some big things happening on the 19th. And
Yeah.
this really goes back to the Aries ingress for the year. So we'll probably make this an entire topic. I think what you're looking at, though, is going to be around the 16th.
Probably. No, that feels right. Or I mean, it could be the Aquarius full moon kind of playing in there too. I could see that
Mhm.
also being part of that.
Yeah.
No, we will be making. So I've been saying this when you've heard this, I've been saying this for like a month and a half, but when I'm
Yeah.
recording it, I've been saying it for at least a couple weeks. When I look at August, it is the energy of change in
Yeah.
motion.
Oh
It
my
is
God.
change in motion. That is August into September. It is change. constantly. It is things changing
Mhm.
because we're at the start of a new book. Like we're at the start of this new chapter. Like that moon that happened, period at the end of the sentence.
Yep.
Now we're at a new chapter, which means a couple things happen at the start of a book, right? Typically, it's not just wake up and peaceful things happen and you go about your day and you go home. It's okay, we don't really know what's going on, but we have a lot of rising action because this is the first step of the first part of the book. And that means there's a lot of stuff happening, but we don't know the full story yet. That's the stage that we're in
Yep.
August. That is what
Oh,
is
big time.
going on.
Hmm.
So if you're like, why is there so much? Like, this is so much even for right now. Yes, it is. It is so much. It is. It is the energy of change in motion, which is good. We want change. We all need change. We all know we need change. Everyone is feeling stuck in clothes that are too small and don't feel like them anymore.
Hmm.
Everybody is. Like it's a universal experience right now. And so it's just moving, like things are changing and shifting because it needs to shift and change in order for everything to get better.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway, so
And
this is the month of that.
this is the rising action of a story that started in 2020, and it's
Mhm.
setting the tone and making us aware of the tone of the story for the next 16 years or so. So don't think that, yes, there's a lot of change. Yes, it's a lot happening at the same time, but it's not something you have to have figured out right now.
No. Nope, it's a start.
Yep.
You get some clues. You're like, what is this? Okay, I guess this is what the storyline is. Interesting. I'm diving into this. Like the
Hmm.
first chapter tells you very little. Like it tells
Yes.
you enough to make you excited
It
to
gives you a
bring you in.
question that you're going to want to find
Uh-huh.
the answer to by the end of the book, but
Yeah. But nope. It's not, yeah. It's not an open shut.
yeah.
Uh
And speaking of books,
speaking of books, look at that
look at
segue.
the segues. Yeah.
So
We're doing
good.
so great.
Snaps.
Uh,
It's also a bookend.
mhm. Yes.
What did you read? Because you read a lot more than I did. Because again, I'm doing most of my reading on the plane.
So yeah, I read, let me go back. When did this month start? So let's see, it's July. I think I talked about the Lord of Stariel. So I went into Infinity Sun after that. Wanted to give that a shot, by Adam Silvera. I liked it enough.
Oh,
I
I
did.
like
I
Adam
liked it enough.
Silvera.
Yeah, like love the writing. Characters are pretty good, except that I'm like, I know what this is going to set up. And so by the time that I reached the end of book one, I was like, okay, it's setting up what I thought it was going to set up. Let's see if book two pivots. I got
Mhm.
43% of the way through book two. And then my book club on Patreon decided they wanted to do a fiction book this month because we'll do really magical fiction books that help us understand how magic works, much like Eurovision, right?
Mhm.
So we decided to do the 10,000 Doors of January.
Oh,
So I
it's so
switched
good.
over. Yeah,
I
I
love that
we
book.
read the 10,000 Doors of January. We'll be discussing that the week that this airs. We'll have our Patreon call. If you want to join the
It's
book club, you're more than welcome.
one of my all-time faves.
It's so here's the thing. I liked it. I love the
Mhm.
concept. I love the way the magic works. The honor that it gives to words and written and spoken word is amazing.
Mhm.
I had a hard time getting into it though.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, and I think it was just um and I know this is going to sound very weird, but like not enough action orientation. Like stuff was talked about a lot and stuff did happen, but it was very like, and then we did this, and then we did this, and then we did this. And it was very intellectual, which I
Yeah,
do.
it's a literary fiction.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
where I'm falling short on being able to get engaged with that right now is I'm reading so much ancient and medieval stuff for my theology degree
Fair enough.
that I think I just was not mentally at a good place to be able to be entertained by literary fiction. Which is
Yeah.
why now I'm currently reading Gwen and Art Are Not in Love. Speaking of Arthurian literature.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the 10,000 Doors of January, but it
Mhm.
is you will think about the world
Yes.
the whole time.
I don't usually highlight books,
Uh-huh.
even on a Kindle, but I highlighted in this one. I was like, that is profound. And I like that line.
Uh-huh.
It's a really great way of saying it.
Yeah.
Also bad,
When it
bad, the character, bad. I noticed when stuff happened around bad. Let's put it that way.
yeah, I wouldn't have recommended the book to you if bad stuff happened to bad.
I know, because I was like, when there was like a moment, I was like, somebody should have trigger warninged me here. There's no way. So I went on to, by the way, Bad as a Dog, and I went on to Does the Dog Die,
Yeah.
which is a
Well,
website.
when I recommended it a long time ago to you, I was like, listen, I'm only recommending this because the dog doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one spoiler, but I think that that's a very appropriate spoiler.
Yeah. No, bad's good. Bad's good. Love
That's the
bad.
best.
I
Mhm.
love all of the characters, honestly, though. I really
They're
do.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those books whenever I do put it on the book sleeve, because it's going on the sleeve, my arm sleeve. The sleevey where I keep my armies. I'm gonna do a tattoo of my childhood front door, is what I figured I would do for that book. So I'm
I like
excited.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
we
like
love
slightly
light.
open with some stuff coming out of it.
The doors were good.
Yeah. My childhood front door was cool too. It had like stained glass birds on it.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
But
what we tried for.
I lived in a magical house. It's really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, it's a really good. I'm so glad you're reading that. And
Mhm.
also I'm excited to hear about Gwen and Art not.
Yeah. So far it's pretty good. It's very like light, which I needed. And I when we're traveling, I tend to do like really light, typically more modern, like contemporary romance things.
Hmm.
Um, just because
Yeah.
if I fall asleep to it, it's okay.
As of right now, I'm almost done. So this is not a full recommendation, but it's a pretty damn full recommendation. I'm reading A Spear Cuts Through Water by
Mhm.
Simon Jimenez, I think. Hold on, let me double check. Holy fuck, is it good? I've never read a book written like this ever. Yeah, Simon Jimenez. I have never read a book written like this. The coolest, okay, can I even describe it? So many things happen. So many things happen in this book. Let me just start there. There is a lot of happenings that go on in this book. What it does with perspective, though, is the coolest thing I've ever seen, because it is written like you are in a dream. And I mean that with my whole chest. It is not written where you're like, is this a dream? Is he going to wake up from this dream? No, you start the book knowing you're in a dream. He talks about how he's going to the Moon Theater, which is a place that you only get to go once in your entire life in your dreams. And most people don't get to remember their trip to the Moon Theater. They will remember it when they pass into the sleepless sea, or into the ever sleeping sea. But
Mhm.
he's remembering it. So he's in the Moon Theater and he knows he's dreaming. And then because it is a dream, it is written like a dream, which is just, it's the
Ooh,
wildest
trippy.
experience. So you're like, he's watching a play in the Moon Theater. It's an inverted theater, so really it's upside down, but that's beside the point because you're in a freaking dream. But he's watching it, and so there's players on the stage, but then you're in the story of the what's happening. That is the play, and you're actually with the characters and what's going on. And then every time they cross the paths with someone, you understand what that person is thinking. That whatever person they cross paths with narrates briefly, and then you're back to like the main story, and then something will happen. And it will remind the main character that's sitting in the theater of his life, and it switches perspective, so it goes from third person to second person when he's sitting in the theater, and it's like it reminds you of your Lala who was telling you this story when your brothers were playing here and whatever and blah blah blah, and then you're back into the dream again. It's so fucking cool. It's not confusing. It works really well. It's written super intelligently, and the story is awesome. It is the story of these two opposing warrior guys that are they're tasked with transporting the fallen moon princess, literally the moon that fell out of the sky,
Mhm.
into a human body across this land. She's old as fuck. She is not like a romantic pretty princess. And it's a fake land across the endless sea. It's like it's not fake to the characters in the book, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's
Mhm.
not a real. I think it's rooted in some type of Eastern mythology. I think it's never
I was
anything
just
I've ever
saying,
heard of
Fallen Moon
before.
Princess sounded a little bit like
Um,
what we read about in Shinto.
yeah, but no. Um, there are animal characters. There is a couple triggering animal character scenes, so hold that in your head. But also kind of like a little bit for the better.
Mhm.
There is magic, there is floating cities, there is beautiful artwork. Like it's so cool. It's so lush and it's written so intelligently. When I dove into like when I started reading it, I just saw a recommendation for it. I forget where. And I was like, okay, I'll read that. Like that sounds cool. Whatever. Moon Princess, I can get behind that. And then I started reading it. I was like, oh, like how do you write like this? This is amazing. I've never read a book where it felt like a dream the whole time.
That's really
And it does.
cool.
It's
Mhm.
really activating and cool. and you're solving like 4 or 5 different, like you have 4 or 5 different big questions, and it's a standalone. I think I'm not at the end, but I'm pretty sure it's a standalone. And so there's a bunch of big questions you have about all the different characters, like not only the ones that are transporting the Moon Princess, but the one that's sitting in the inverted theater, and like you have questions that have been brought from all of it. Anyway, it's really good. It's really cool. If you want to do more dream work, I highly recommend this book. It will activate dream work for you
Mhm.
so much, like for sure. Um, but yeah, that's mostly what I read this month. I have other stuff I'm going to read on the plane, so I will probably just update that on next month's thing. Um, since I'm almost done with this one. I have a couple different options that I might read, and I'm not going to say it out loud because I'll end up reading none of them. I'll pick something else entirely. But yeah, I try to do something light. What I have decided to do on the plane, which I've done in the past now, is I got like the smallest of my crochet hooks, which is super, super tiny, and some thread yarn, which is like a tiny little roll of thread
Yeah.
yarn, and I'm making bookmarks on the plane, so I don't have to like bring a huge amount of yarn and have like a big blanket or teddy bear or whatever like carrying
Yeah.
with. It's just like a little
That's so
making
cute.
bookmarks. I thought
I
it'd be
love
fun,
that.
and I can listen to my book and just zone out
Yep.
and crochet.
Yep. I'm going to
For
be studying for my class and hopefully watching some new movies. I get to watch the most movies on flights
right,
and reading, just listening to books and falling asleep with my travel pillow is another joy of travel that I've found.
definitely a joy. Yeah. Anyway, thanks, guys. I think
Mhm.
anything else? Anything else we want to add in? I think we're pretty good
No,
on
I
this
think
episode.
honestly, there's been enough going on. It's okay that we
Right.
had a lighter episode.
Yeah.
And
Right.
honestly, with what we've, kind of mentioned, we will be holding space with you through everything else that's coming up in August. It's a big month. There's a lot of action happening.
Mhm.
Um, check our last episode before last if you feel nervous about it, because we'll encourage you through that retrospective episode of how you can navigate those feelings if that's something that you feel you need.
Yeah.
And we're here.
Yep. Um, Other thing too is I don't know where we sit with enrollments and incense, outcense, and other
Mhm.
nonsense. But I'm just gonna plug it here. If you want to get, if you're feeling really drawn to figuring out your magic stuff, if you're just like, what is this? How do I make life magical? I'm so tired of being stuck. I'm so tired of just being like on a loop throughout your journey. Like, this is what it's for. Like, it's literally going to unstuck you. It's going to help you
Mhm.
make magic happen in your life. It's going to give you the foundations of a whole bunch of different stuff that you can really just stand on to support you into the future.
Yeah.
And it's going to be amazing. So if you want to join Incense Outcense and other nonsense, again, I'm not sure what the enrollments are going to be looking like at this period of time, but go check them out. They're on the Forgotten or the ninthhousepub.com
Yep.
website, or forgottenstorytellers.com website. It's the
Yep.
same site,
Same
but
thing.
either one will take you there. Yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. We hope this was fun for you. Good luck during Mercury retrograde. Don't worry, you will be fine.
We will
Um,
be. I'm going to be traveling home from Japan that day, and Mercury will start their retrograde in my perfected sign of Virgo as my Time Lord for the year. So if I'm going to be fine, you're going to be fine.
I travel home the next day, and
Mhm.
I'll be fine. It's a straight shot. I don't have a single layover.
I am in Dallas.
I'm so sorry.
I know.
Oh my God, I
Yeah,
hate that airport
me too. I never get out of
so
Dallas and make it
much.
to Richmond. I always end up in Dulles. Like Dallas just has this ego complex where it's like the one that sounds like my name. And then I
Right.
end up there.
Every time I do everything I can typically to avoid Dallas. I'm so
Yeah. Yeah.
sorry.
It's
It's
fine.
just so, it's so much.
Yep. I'm
It's
just hoping
never
if there is a delay, it's in Tokyo. So I can just have like, oh no, another day in Japan rather than, oh no, I'm stuck in Dallas.
right. Right? No,
We
for
will
sure.
see.
Mm-hmm. That's a good call. Yeah. ah, it's gonna be really cool. Kristen, I can't wait to tell. I can't even,
I'm
I
so
haven't
ready.
even experienced yet, but I want to
Yeah.
tell you guys about Tokyo.
I can't wait to
It's
share it. Yeah.
gonna be so cool.
Yeah.
We're also gonna do Disneyland while we're there, just
I know.
us. That's not part of the actual trip, like with the travelers. I mean, they can come with us if they want,
Honestly,
but
that's
we're
like the
going to
most
Disneyland.
friend thing we'll have ever done.
I know. Right? I mean, we've done some good friend things, but yeah,
We
like we're
absolutely
we're
have. Yeah. Yeah.
straight up going to Disney. It's
Yeah.
funny. This is just everyone's gonna get a kick out of this because You guys know us. But I was talking to Weston and I was like, okay, so we want to make sure that we're like lining up for rope drop at like 7, even though like rope drop
Yep.
doesn't happen until like 8:30. We're gonna want to
Yep.
be there at 7. And Weston's like, yeah, we can do that. He's like, so Chris and Dan are gonna be there at like what, 5:36? And I was like,
Probably.
probably.
Yeah. Yeah. You
And I was like,
bet.
we'll just go
Be there.
meet them. We don't really have to stress about it. We'll just go
I'll be
meet
doing
Chris
my
and Dan.
workout at the road. It's fine.
Exactly. That's what I figured. I was like, oh,
Yep.
actually, yeah, I don't really have
And
to
you
think
know
about it.
what?
Krista wakes up at 4, so they'll be there
Yeah.
way ahead of me.
You know what'll happen? I will
Mhm.
go there. I will wait in line early. And if you show up, Em, you can get in line with me.
That's what I meant. I don't have to worry
No,
about it. I could
I'm
just walk up
mocking
to
Italy
you.
right now.
Oh, oh, you
Yeah.
are mocking.
I will do the one and I will wait for 3 hours
You.
this time. And you can take your time.
You're the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah. No
I mean, I'll still
problem.
probably be there at like
Oh
7,
yeah, because it's gonna
7:30,
be fun
but
in the
like,
line too. But I'm just trying to pull
uh-huh. Yeah,
it.
no, you're right. Yeah, because guess what? It's fine to meet your party when they wait in line. It's
Yes.
fine.
Yeah.
That being said, it'll only be 2 of us, but still.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fine. Especially in
Ridiculous.
this case, it is fine. It's not disrespectful because we've already looked ahead and made sure it won't be.
Yeah.
Just so you know, we are not rude or intentionally or unintentionally. We have looked into this. I actually have a
Yeah.
friend who lives in Japan. I've been asking them tons of questions about how not to be rude unintentionally.
Yeah.
So we're good.
Hmm. Awesome. Okay. Well, everybody, happy Mercury retrograde. We hope you take all of this retrograde energy and you go make
Go
some
make some
magic.
magic.
Okay.
Woo.
Bye, everybody.